In a world obsessed with the here and now, the soul's journey after death reveals a truth so profound, it could reshape how you live today. Few people wonder what really happens to the soul of an elderly person after death. When someone who has lived so long departs this world, it's not just a body that's gone, but an entire history that seems to disappear. However, according to reports from the well-known scholar Shi Heng Yi, this moment isn't the end, but the beginning of a new chapter. Shi Heng Yi said that the spirit of an older person carries with it a valuable spiritual baggage accumulated over the years. This baggage directly influences what that soul will experience after leaving the body. Curious about what happens to the soul after death? Drop a star in the comments and hit subscribe to uncover the next chapter of this spiritual journey. The transition, therefore, doesn't happen in a generic way. Each experience is unique, reflecting the life that was lived. According to Shi Heng Yi, the more awareness a person develops throughout life, the more serene the passing process. The spirit isn't cast adrift, but welcomed according to its evolution. Death, in this context, is just a change of clothes, not an annulment of existence. This process, for Shi Heng Yi, is deeply marked by intention, by the love cultivated, and by the choices made along the journey. The soul of an older person who lived with generosity, humility, and wisdom doesn't leave alone. It's received by subtle presences who guide it carefully through dimensions of learning and rest. The body may have aged, but the spirit becomes more lucid upon freeing itself from physical limitations. It's at this point that many accounts of near-death experiences coincide with the visions described by Shi Heng Yi, a sensation of lightness, of returning home, of reunion. And it's important to remember that each soul carries its own time and its own rhythm. If you're interested in these reflections and want to continue following content like this, please consider subscribing and showing your support with a like. It really helps to keep this message alive and accessible to more folks. According to Shi Heng Yi, after death, the spirit doesn't wander aimlessly. It goes through a period of transition called the review plane. In it, the soul reviews its own life as if watching an intimate movie, where every action, word, and feeling are re-evaluated from a broader perspective. There are no external judgments, but a deep understanding of the consequences of each choice. For older folks, this moment can be especially revealing. After all, over decades, there have been many decisions, encounters, learnings, and also regrets. Shi Heng Yi affirmed that this review isn't done to punish, but to teach. The soul understands with clarity the impact it had on others and on itself, and this clarity is the first step toward the next stage of the spiritual journey. During this review process, many older people experience a sense of liberation. The mind is no longer trapped by the limits of time, memory, or a weakened body. Everything that was lived presents itself with clarity, allowing the soul to understand why certain pains were necessary and how certain joys contributed to its evolution. Shi Heng Yi pointed out that this phase is also an opportunity for healing. What wasn't resolved in life, when looked at with love and truth, can finally be understood. There isn't a divine tribunal, but rather a deep mirror of consciousness. The soul of an older person, upon perceiving with lucidity what previously seemed confusing, begins to feel peace. And this peace doesn't come from perfection, but from understanding. According to Shi Heng Yi, many elderly spirits are deeply moved to see how their actions, even the simplest ones, touched and transformed other lives in a positive way. After this review phase, the soul enters a stage of spiritual rest. Shi Heng Yi described this moment as a refuge of silence and light, where the soul recovers from the tensions of earthly existence. It's like a well-deserved rest after years of effort, pain, joy, and challenges. For older people, this rest is especially restorative. The spirit, freed from physical limitations, can finally breathe fully. There's no rush to the next step. Each soul remains in this state for as long as necessary, until it's prepared to continue its journey. Shi Heng Yi said that this place of rest is filled with harmony, similar to a welcoming space where the spirit is enveloped by love and understanding. There, spiritual reunions happen. Friends, relatives, and companions from other lives approach, often recognized not by their faces, but by the vibration of affection that remains. These reunions, according to Shi Heng Yi, are moments of intense joy and recognition. It's not a simple memory, but a living connection between souls who truly loved each other. The soul of the older person recognizes those who departed before them, and who now receive them with tenderness. This happens not as a reward, but as a natural part of the spiritual flow. In many accounts, there are mentions of silent smiles, hugs that don't need words, and a deep sense that nothing was lost. Shi Heng Yi affirmed that true love transcends all barriers, including death. When an elderly soul finds those they loved, there's a healing that is completed. The longing, the absences, the voids that remained on earth are filled by a spiritual presence that cannot be explained, only felt. This is one of the most sacred moments of the entire journey. Want to dive deeper into the afterlife's mysteries? Like this post and follow for more mind-blowing insights you won't want to miss. After this reunion phase, the soul proceeds to a stage of deeper learning. Shi Heng Yi said that death doesn't interrupt the evolution of the spirit. It only changes the environment in which it occurs. For older folks who carry with them decades of experience, this learning is even more valuable. The wisdom accumulated in life transforms into raw material for broader reflections in the spiritual plane. The soul is guided by spiritual mentors who help it to understand patterns, to recognize repeated cycles, and to visualize more clearly the purpose of its journey. These encounters aren't rigid or academic, but involve a transmission of knowledge that takes place through the exchange of consciousness. Shi Heng Yi described this as a silent process in which the soul absorbs lessons not only about itself, but about the nature of life as a whole, including the interdependence between all beings. In this stage, many elderly souls understand that their lives played an important role in the web of existence. Even the moments that seem small or insignificant in life are now seen as essential parts of a larger design. Shi Heng Yi affirmed that this understanding brings a sense of belonging. The spirit realizes that it was part of something much greater than itself. This generates a new form of gratitude, not based only on good memories, but also on the challenges faced. The soul no longer blames itself for its mistakes, but understands them as part of the learning process. Shi Heng Yi reinforced that no experience is wasted. Everything contributes to the growth of the spirit, and it's precisely this acceptance that allows the soul to be ready to choose its next steps more consciously, freely, and in alignment with its level of spiritual evolution. It's at this point that one of the most important questions raised by Shi Heng Yi arises. What comes after this learning? For him, not all souls follow the same path. Some may choose to return to Earth in another incarnation. Others remain in the spiritual plane for a long period. The decision isn't imposed, but arises from within the soul itself, which recognizes what it still needs to develop. In the case of older people, there's often a desire to contribute to those who remained. Shi Heng Yi reported cases of spirits who remained close to their loved ones, not out of attachment, but out of love and a desire to support them. They become discreet presences, subtly influencing through intuition, care, and protection. The soul, even after death, continues to be present in the lives of those it loves, not as a shadow of the past, but as an active part of a bond that time doesn't erase. This spiritual presence doesn't directly interfere in the decisions of the living, but acts as a field of support. Shi Heng Yi said that many older people, upon realizing that they can still help after death, feel great peace. It's as if the cycle of life gains continuity beyond matter. And that's why some people report vivid dreams with parents, grandparents, or loved ones who have already passed away in decisive moments. These encounters aren't simple memories, but real manifestations of a spiritual connection that still pulses. The soul of the elderly person, already freed from the pains of the body, finds new ways to express its care. For Shi Heng Yi, this communication happens when there's an opening of the heart, when the pain of mourning transforms into silent listening. In these moments, the spirit can transmit messages of comfort, gentle guidance, or simply the certainty that everything is all right on the other side. This type of manifestation, according to Shi Heng Yi, doesn't occur by chance. It depends on the vibration of who departs and who remains. A soul that lived with love, that learned with humility, and that said goodbye in peace, has an easier time communicating in a subtle way. Likewise, those who remain on earth and cultivate feelings of gratitude, forgiveness, and serene longing create a field conducive to these spiritual encounters. Shi Heng Yi emphasized that the bond between souls isn't broken by death. It only transforms. The physical presence is gone, but the essence of the relationship remains alive. That's why many older people, even after passing away, continue to be a source of strength for children, grandchildren, and even great-grandchildren. And this strength isn't explained rationally, but is felt in the silence, in the thought that arises from nowhere, in the decision that seems guided by something greater. In addition to communication with the living, Shi Heng Yi said that elderly souls also prepare for future missions. Spiritual life isn't made up only of rest and memories. It's dynamic, full of learning and choices. Some souls choose to return as spiritual guides, others as teachers in more subtle planes. There are still those who decide to reincarnate, bringing with them the accumulated baggage of other existences. According to Shi Heng Yi, this decision isn't quick. It takes time and spiritual maturity. For older people, this interval between one life and another can be longer, as there are more layers to be understood and integrated. The soul needs to assimilate the teachings of the existence that ended in order to then define with lucidity the paths it will follow. This pause is like a conscious interval between acts of a long play, where the actor reflects on the role they played. This conscious interval is essential so that the soul doesn't repeat unconscious patterns in a new life. Shi Heng Yi taught that spiritual evolution requires responsibility. A new incarnation shouldn't be seen as an escape, but as a choice aligned with inner growth. For many older folks who have already reached a certain level of understanding, the next step may no longer be on Earth, but in more subtle planes of existence. There, the experiences are less dense, more linked to consciousness, and to service to others at energetic levels. Shi Heng Yi explained that not every soul needs to reincarnate. Some have already completed their cycles in matter and move on to spheres where learning happens in other ways. The soul in this stage acts as a kind of guardian, caring for other consciousnesses in the process of maturation. This doesn't make it superior, but more integrated into the flow of spiritual life. For those who still have learning to conclude on Earth, the return is prepared with great care. Shi Heng Yi said that the planning of a new life involves many factors, such as the ties that the soul needs to resume, the lessons that haven't been well understood, and the contributions that it can offer to the world. The soul of the elderly person, when preparing for this possibility, doesn't return to the starting point, but begins a new cycle with more tools and understanding. The accumulated spiritual consciousness serves as a compass so that the next steps are firmer. According to Shi Heng Yi, each new incarnation should be seen as an opportunity for service, not just for personal growth. And when this return is made with this intention, the soul no longer lives only for itself, but for something greater, contributing to the evolution of the entire human collective. Shi Heng Yi also affirmed that the soul carries with it very vivid impressions of the life it left behind. These aren't common memories, but deep records that remain in the essence of the spirit. These marks are important because they help to guide future decisions. In the case of older people, the lived wisdom becomes a solid base that influences even the new body, the new personality, and the natural talents that will come. Nothing is lost. Every gesture, every thought, every affection lived continues to be part of what the soul is. This continuity is what makes the spirit a being in constant transformation. For Shi Heng Yi, there's no rupture between life and death. There's only transition. Death, therefore, shouldn't be feared, but understood as a moment of passage, of spiritual reorganization. What was lived continues, not as a burden, but as an integral part of the eternal identity of the soul. This understanding of continuity is essential so that the fear of death loses strength. Shi Heng Yi said that a large part of the suffering at the end of life comes from the idea that everything ends. But when the soul understands that existence continues, the end transforms into transition, and pain gives way to serenity. For older folks, this understanding can be a balm. Knowing that the love lived doesn't dissolve, that the learnings follow with the spirit, and that there will be reunions and new missions brings relief and hope. Shi Heng Yi encouraged people to talk about death naturally, especially with older folks, not as something dark, but as part of life. When this is done with respect, the soul prepares better. The farewell becomes lighter, the bonds are honored, and the passage occurs with less resistance. The spirit continues, more whole, without so much attachment, and with more awareness. Another point that Shi Heng Yi highlighted was the importance of the emotional state in the last days of life. According to him, the way a person faces the end directly influences their spiritual experience after death. An older person who departs in peace, surrounded by affection, with resolved issues and gratitude in their heart, crosses this moment with more lightness. Those who depart amid conflicts, resentments, or feelings of abandonment take with them these emotions that will need to be worked on in the spiritual plane. Feeling inspired by this story? Share it with a friend and comment "soul" to keep exploring the secrets of life beyond. Shi Heng Yi reinforced that it's never too late to forgive, thank, or express love. Even if the body is fragile, the soul listens and feels. Every word spoken, every gesture of affection, contributes to the transition happening more harmoniously. Therefore, taking care of the emotional state in the last days isn't just a comfort, but a true spiritual preparation. For those who remain, understanding this process can alleviate grief. Shi Heng Yi said that when we know that the soul continues, and that this continuity is linked to the way life was lived, we can transform the pain of loss into learning. Instead of asking ourselves why death arrived, we start to reflect on how that life was significant. The departure of an elderly person can become a moment of wisdom for the whole family. The spiritual legacy they leave serves as guidance, as a beacon for younger people. When we honor the memory with conscious actions, we are in tune with the soul that departed, and this connection strengthens. Shi Heng Yi believed that true love doesn't die. It only changes form, becoming more subtle, more silent, but never absent. Thus, death ceases to be a rupture and transforms into loving continuity. This loving continuity is the invisible link that connects the worlds. Shi Heng Yi reinforced that, even without realizing it, many people feel the presence of elderly people who have departed in small details of everyday life. A scent that arises suddenly, a song that plays at the exact moment, a memory that warms the heart for no apparent reason. These signs aren't coincidence. They are subtle forms of communication, silent expressions that the soul continues to be present. For Shi Heng Yi, this presence isn't haunting or fantasy. It's a living bond that manifests when there's attunement. Therefore, cultivating love, maintaining respect, and remembering with gratitude are attitudes that strengthen this bond. The older person who departed can continue teaching, inspiring, and caring, even in another dimension. And this care, even invisible, translates into intuitions, into renewed strength in difficult moments, into correct decisions without logical explanation. Shi Heng Yi also mentioned that, over time, the soul of the elderly person gains more freedom to choose new paths. After going through the period of review, rest, and learning, the spirit reaches more subtle levels of consciousness. This means that it begins to understand more clearly its function in the universe. Some souls choose to remain close to Earth, discreetly assisting their descendants, or acting as spiritual mentors to other people. Others, already with fewer ties, move on to dimensions where time is no longer linear, and experiences are more linked to the collective than to the individual. Shi Heng Yi said that the more elevated the consciousness, the greater the understanding of the whole, and in this whole, each soul has its place. Death, therefore, isn't the end of a personal trajectory, but the expansion of this trajectory beyond the limits that we knew in life. The journey of an elderly soul, as illuminated by Shi Heng Yi, offers a profound lens through which we can view both life and death, not as opposing forces, but as parts of a continuous, purposeful flow. This narrative challenges us to rethink our relationship with mortality, urging us to see it not as an end, but as a transition rich with meaning. For Americans, who often prioritize the hustle of daily life, careers, achievements, and tangible successes, this perspective invites a pause. It reminds us that every moment, every choice, and every connection we forge carries weight beyond the physical world. Shi Heng Yi's teachings reveal that the soul's path after death is shaped by how we live today, emphasizing authenticity, love, and purpose as the cornerstones of a meaningful existence. This isn't just a philosophical idea. It's a call to action to live with intention, knowing that our actions ripple into eternity. Reflecting on the soul's journey, one of the most powerful lessons is the importance of cultivating awareness in our daily lives. Shi Heng Yi's concept of the review plane, where the soul reflects on its life with clarity, teaches us to practice self-reflection now. Imagine if we took time each day to evaluate our choices, not with judgment, but with curiosity. Did we act with kindness? Did we forgive? Did we pursue what truly matters? In a fast-paced American culture, where productivity often overshadows introspection, this practice can ground us. It's about pausing to ask, am I living in alignment with my values? By doing so, we prepare our soul for a serene transition while enriching our present. Try setting aside 5 minutes each evening to journal about your day. What went well, what you'd change, and how you impacted others. This small habit can transform how you navigate life's challenges and joys. Another key takeaway is the healing power of love and forgiveness. Shi Heng Yi emphasizes that unresolved conflicts or resentments linger with the soul, affecting its journey after death. This resonates deeply in a society where grudges can fester, whether in family dynamics or workplace tensions. The lesson here is clear. Don't wait to mend bridges. Reach out to a loved one you've drifted from, apologize for past hurts, or simply express gratitude. These acts don't just lighten your soul, they create ripples of positivity in your community. In American culture, where independence is celebrated, we sometimes shy away from vulnerability. Yet, saying "I'm sorry" or "I love you" can be a radical act of strength. Next time you're tempted to hold back, take a deep breath and speak from the heart. It's a gift to both yourself and others. The idea of spiritual rest and reunions also offers a comforting lesson. No connection rooted in love is ever truly lost. In a culture that often fears death, this perspective is a balm. It encourages us to cherish our relationships now, knowing they transcend time. Call your grandparents, spend an afternoon with your kids, or reconnect with an old friend. These moments aren't just fleeting, they're investments in a bond that endures. For many Americans, busy schedules can make these interactions feel like luxuries, but they're necessities. Make a commitment this week to have a meaningful conversation with someone you love. Ask about their dreams, their fears, or their stories. These connections build a legacy that outlives the physical. Shi Heng Yi's teachings also highlight the dynamic nature of the soul's journey, where learning and growth never stop. This resonates with the American spirit of reinvention and lifelong learning. Whether you're 20 or 80, there's always room to grow. Embrace challenges as opportunities to evolve, just as the soul does in its post-life phases. If you've been hesitant to try something new, a hobby, a career pivot, or a personal goal, take the first step. Sign up for that class, start that project, or have that tough conversation. The soul's journey reminds us that every experience, even the painful ones, contributes to our growth. This mindset can transform how we approach setbacks, making us more resilient and open to life's possibilities. Finally, the emphasis on living with purpose speaks to the American ideal of making a difference. Shi Heng Yi suggests that souls who live with intention often return to serve others, whether on earth or in spiritual realms. This inspires us to ask, how can I contribute? Volunteer at a local shelter, mentor a young person, or simply offer a kind word to a stranger. These acts don't need to be grand, they just need to be genuine. In a culture that celebrates big wins, the soul's journey reminds us that small, intentional acts of kindness are what shape our spiritual legacy. This narrative transforms death from a taboo into a natural, dignified stage of existence. It encourages us to live with more truth, compassion, and depth, values that resonate across American ideals of freedom, connection, and purpose. By embracing these lessons, we not only prepare our souls for their next chapter, but also enrich our lives and those around us. Let's honor the elderly, value every moment, and live with the awareness that our story never truly ends. It simply evolves. If this message touched your heart or sparked your curiosity, hit that like button to show your support. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it, maybe a friend or family member who could use a little hope. Subscribe to our channel for more thought-provoking content that dives deep into life's biggest questions. And don't forget to drop a comment below. Tell us what resonated with you, or share a number 1 to keep this journey alive. Your engagement helps us spread this message of love and wisdom to more people. Let's keep the conversation going.